This is Community Radio Networks. It is Thursday, the 11th of July today. And here we are back this morning on the 7-Eleven, getting you all the information you need to take on this day today. And don't forget your free Slurpee at 7-Eleven today. Let's start with the world news. This is Community Radio Networks, the world news, read by Shabnam Madgil. Every word he utters, every step he takes, President Biden now has the eyes of a worried world on him, watching for another faltering performance like his June debate that sparks fresh calls for him to leave the 2024 presidential race. His next big test comes today, when he holds a solo press conference at the NATO summit, his first time facing the press alone since November. He has held press conferences with leaders from Ukraine, Kenya, and Japan this year. The 81-year-old Joe Biden will take an unspecified number of questions from reporters in an event expected to last about as long as November's, which ran 21 minutes. Ahead of that event scheduled for 5:30 this evening, the White House was busily helping to prepare the president for it by trying to game out the questions reporters would ask. In the 2 weeks since the 27th June debate, he had another disappointing performance in an ABC News interview, reinforcing some Democrats' concerns over his ability to beat Republican rival Donald Trump in the November 5th election or serve another 4 years. But he also participated in a wide array of public events without a slip-up, including campaign stops in North Carolina, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Virginia. President Biden today giving his first press conference since his debate disaster against Donald Trump in a pressure cooker moment that could seal the fate of his re-election bid. And the eyes of the world will be on this 81-year-old at a NATO summit as he tries to calm growing calls for his Democratic Party to step aside over his age and health. President Biden's campaign has already suffered a major slowdown in donations, and officials are bracing for a seismic fundraising hit with the fallout from a debate nearly 2 weeks ago, taking a sizable toll on operations. U.S. Senator Peter Welch yesterday became the first Democratic senator to call on President Biden to withdraw from the 2024 presidential race after his poor performance in that first debate with Donald Trump last month. And it is President Biden's imperiled re-election campaign that has hit new trouble yesterday as House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi said merely it's up to the president to decide if he should stay in the race. And celebrity donor George Clooney said he should not run. And Democratic senators and lawmakers expressed fresh fear about his ability to beat Donald Trump. The GOP-led House Oversight Committee has subpoenaed 3 senior White House aides, demanding they sit for depositions regarding President Biden's health, as he will face this major test today when he holds this unscripted news conference at the NATO summit in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump has lashed out at Hollywood star George Clooney after the Democratic mega donor added his voice to the ongoing calls for President Biden to drop out of the 2024 White House race. In a Truth Social rant, the reality TV star turned former president branded Clooney a fake movie star and told him to get out of politics and go back to television. Former First Lady Melania Trump has been rather elusive since her husband left office in 2021. Now, as we head deeper into the 24 presidential campaign season, she's participating more. This week, she hosted a campaign fundraiser at former President Trump's Trump Tower penthouse in New York City that brought in more than $1 million. A fundraiser for Log Cabin Republicans, a longtime group for LGBTQ conservatives named after Republican President Abraham Lincoln. Previously, the group gave Melania its Spirit of Lincoln Award. And the youngest son of former President Trump, Barron Trump, made his debut at one of his father's rallies, sparking a huge response from those gathered. The 18-year-old Barron Trump had never appeared at his father's campaign rallies, often staying out of political spotlight. Two Democratic senators are seeking a criminal investigation into Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, focusing on gifts and benefits received from wealthy benefactors. And this comes as a significant escalation in efforts to address various controversies related to Thomas and the court, and could mark an unprecedented probe. U.S. Senators Sheldon Whitehouse and Ron Wyden sent a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland last week requesting the appointment of a special counsel to investigate potential violations of ethics, false statements, and tax laws by Thomas and the benefactors who have supplied him with undisclosed gifts. Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York has introduced articles of impeachment against Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, ramping up Democrats' disapproval of the High Court in the wake of ethics issues and the spate of major decisions at the close of its latest term. Vice President Kamala Harris spoke to 20,000 members of a sorority in Dallas yesterday. She is a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha, historically black sorority launched at Howard University in Washington, D.C. in 1908. Members are holding their national convention this week at the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center in Dallas. She spoke for about 18 minutes yesterday and talked about President Biden's re-election campaign. She said there is so much at stake in this moment. The damage left by Hurricane Beryl in Texas and request for federal help has opened a rift between the White House and the state GOP's leaders following the storm that pummeled the coast and knocked out power to millions of residents in Houston. President Biden said he tried tracking down Republican Governor Greg Abbott, who has been in Asia on a trade mission since last week, to get the state to formally request a major disaster declaration that unlocks federal aid. And he also said he tried reaching Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who has served as acting governor since Beryl made landfall this Monday, before they eventually connected the next day. Both Texas leaders have sharply pushed back on Biden's version of the events in the middle of this hurricane recovery that has left some coastal residents facing the possibility of days or weeks without electricity. More than 1.3 million customers in Texas today are still without power, depriving many of air conditioning during a dangerous heat wave. The storm blamed in at least 11 deaths in the U.S., still bringing rain to the Great Lakes and New England regions since through last night. And we do have the Houston area under a heat advisory through today, with the heat index, a measure of how hot it feels when humidity is taken into account, predicted to be in the 100-degree range. Two NASA astronauts piloting the historic Starliner mission spoke favorably about the vehicle that carried them to the International Space Station, despite a string of issues that have delayed its return indefinitely. The crew has been in space for more than a month, much longer than the week-long stay initially expected. NASA and Boeing have said that the fresh wave of issues affecting this flight should not prevent the spacecraft from ultimately bringing astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore safely home. NASA has not named an expected time frame for their return to Earth, but insists the crew is not stuck in space. Opening statements in the involuntary manslaughter trial of actor Alec Baldwin began yesterday, nearly 3 years after cinematographer Halyna Hutchins was fatally shot on the New Mexico set of the Western film Rust. Prosecutors accused Baldwin of violating the cardinal rules of firearm safety by pointing a gun at a person and pulling the trigger. The defense team, on the other hand, said the gun was deemed cold, meaning it had been checked and was safe. Baldwin has pleaded not guilty and has maintained he did not pull the trigger after the prop gun had discharged was later found to be loaded with a live bullet. If convicted, the actor could face up to 18 months in prison and $5,000 in fines. The U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee formally named a star-studded 592-member team for this month's Olympic Games in Paris. The U.S. squad, which comprises 314 female athletes and 278 male athletes, will be aiming to top the Olympic medals table for a fourth straight Games. And the team includes Olympic stars such as gymnast Simone Biles, swimmer Katie Ledecky, and NBA icon LeBron James, and includes more than 250 returning Olympians, including 3 5-time Olympians, 4 4-time Olympians, and 16 3-time Olympians. England and Spain have earned spots in this Sunday's Euro 2024 final. Later that day, many fans will also tune in to the last Copa America 2024 face-off between Argentina and Colombia. Substitute Ollie Watkins scored a late winner as England reached a second consecutive European Championship final with a come-from-behind 2-1 victory over the Netherlands yesterday. And Novak Djokovic progressed to a record-equaling 13th Wimbledon semi-final without hitting a ball yesterday after Alex de Minaur pulled out injured as former champion Elena Rybakina has eased through. Australian 9th seed de Minaur is 25 years old and announced shortly after midday at the All England Club that he was devastated to pull out due to a hip injury. President Biden and leaders of other NATO member states are set to announce new aid and stress a membership pledge for Ukraine at a summit in Washington after Biden promised to defend Kyiv against the Russian invasion. As Biden has welcomed NATO leaders, the U.S. and Germany announced that the U.S. would start deploying longer-range missiles in Germany in 2026 in an effort to demonstrate its commitment to NATO and European defense. This joint U.S.-German statement said the episodic deployments were in preparation for longer-term stationing of such capabilities that would include SM-6 Tomahawk and development hypersonic weapons with a greater range than current capabilities in Europe. The U.S. and its NATO allies will give Ukraine new air defense systems, and the 32 members of NATO formally declared Ukraine on an irreversible path to membership in the Western Military Alliance, offering a bare but more binding assurance of protection once its war with Russia ends. The Russian Prosecutor General's office declared the Moscow Times, an online newspaper popular among Russian expatriate community, as an undesirable organization. And this designation comes amid a crackdown on critical news media and the opposition. It means the newspaper must stop any work in Russia, and it subjects any Russian who cooperates with the paper to up to 5 years in prison. British-supplied missiles can be used by Ukraine to strike targets inside Russia. The UK has told Ukrainian President Zelensky. UK Defense Secretary John Healey greenlighted Kyiv's use of Storm Shadow missiles for defense strikes inside Russian territory. And a suspect wanted in connection with the triple killings of the wife and 2 daughters of a BBC sport commentator was found by British police following a manhunt. The search for Clyde Clifford, who's 26 years old, began when police were called to a house in Bushey in Hertfordshire, where they found 3 seriously injured women. The 61-year-old wife of BBC horse racing commentator John Hunt and their daughters later died from their wounds. Rwanda has said it is not required to refund the UK after a multi-million-pound migrant deal between the two countries was scrapped. New UK Prime Minister and Labour Party leader Keir Starmer announced that the plan to deport some asylum seekers to Rwanda was dead and buried, and the scheme was forged by the previous Conservative government, which since revealing the plan in 2022 has paid Rwanda £240 million. The spire from a famous Gothic cathedral in the French city of Rouen has caught fire, and the prefecture shows a black smoke billowing from a canopy and scaffolding at the top of the building, which is about 150 meters tall, and the blaze, though, has been contained now. The fire's origin is unknown at this point. Around 70 firefighters and 40 fire engines were part of the efforts to tackle the blaze. The Our Lady of the Assumption Cathedral has been evacuated, and a security perimeter is in place. There are no reports of casualties. And thousands of solemn mourners gathered in the town of Srebrenica in Bosnia today to remember the 1995 massacre of Bosnian Muslims, less 2 months after the UN established a memorial day to mark that genocide. Today, in 1995, Bosnian Serb forces captured the eastern Bosnian town, which was then a UN-protected enclave, and killed 8,000 Muslim men and boys in the following days. It was the worst massacre in Europe since World War II, and 2 international courts ruled it was genocide. Weather alerts, forest fires, melting pavement in cities, a sizzling heat wave has sent temperatures in parts of Central and Southern Europe soaring towards 104 degrees. And from Italy to Romania, authorities warned people to be cautious, drive carefully if going on holiday, drink plenty of water, and avoid going out during the hottest hours of the day. Italian authorities declared a red weather alert in 7 cities today, mostly in the central parts of the country, but also the capital of Rome and Trieste in the northeast. Similar warnings were issued in neighboring Croatia and further east and south. Germany bracing for further heavy rainfall today, a day after storms caused widespread flooding and numerous emergency responses across several parts of Germany. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier is set to inaugurate a new memorial site today commemorating those incarcerated in the notorious Hohenecke women's prison in the former communist East Germany. Many of the inmates of the former women's prison in Stolberg, some 80 kilometers southwest of Dresden, were political prisoners. Joined by eyewitnesses of that era, Steinmeier will visit the historic cell block and a newly established permanent exhibition, scheduled to deliver a speech afterwards today. The far-right Alternative for Germany party have announced the formation of a new right-wing group in the European Parliament. As the spokesman for co-leader Alice Weidel announced, the Europe of Sovereign Nations parliamentary group will initially be made up of 25 MPs from a total of 8 countries, 14 of whom are from the AfD, and the group is currently the smallest in the European Union legislature. European countries continue to supply Israel with arms as it continues its military offensive in Gaza. NATO has pledged to ramp up its defense industry as Russia's invasion of Ukraine has created a vast demand for more supplies in the war-ravaged country and across the alliance that has outstripped NATO's ability to produce weapons and ammunition. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is considering avoiding a stopover in Europe on his way to the US over fears that the International Criminal Court is readying to issue an arrest warrant against him over the Israeli army's alleged crimes in Gaza. He's scheduled to travel to the U.S. and to deliver a speech before the U.S. Congress on the 24th of this month and expected to meet President Biden in the White House. CIA Director Bill Burns is meeting senior Qatari, Egyptian, and Israeli officials in Doha in hopes of closing remaining gaps in the framework of the Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal and moving to detailed negotiations. Israel's army dropped thousands of leaflets over war-torn Gaza City, urging all residents to flee a heavy offensive through the main city of the besieged Palestinian territory. And the leaflets addressed to everyone in Gaza City set out designated escape routes and warned that the urban area, which had a pre-war population of over 500,000, would remain a dangerous combat zone. The Israeli military urging all Palestinians to leave Gaza City and head south, pressing ahead with a fresh offensive across the north, south, and center of the embattled territory that has killed dozens of people over the past 48 hours. And Masoud Pezeshkian, who is expected to become Iran's president in the next few weeks, has written to Hamas Politburo chief Ismail Haniyeh to reassure that his administration will continue to support the Palestinian cause. Turkish President Erdogan and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz held discussions on Israel's military campaign in the Gaza Strip. And a court in the United Arab Emirates has handed life sentences to 43 activists after finding them guilty of terror offenses. State media said that Abu Dhabi Federal Court of Appeal convicted the defendants of creating a terrorist organization. UN experts and human rights groups have severely criticized this mass trial. The South African city of Cape Town and surrounding areas hit by storms today that ripped roofs off houses and caused widespread flooding, forcing at least 4,500 people out of their homes and damaging at least 15,000 structures. The devastating weather began a week ago. Already eyeing up a winter break in the sun, Indonesia could soon be an easier destination to reach as the government there plans to ditch holiday visa requirements for nationals of 20 countries. France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Russia, Spain, and the UK are the European nations on the list. And Australia, China, India, Japan, and the US are among other countries whose passport holders are to get easier access to the 5,000-kilometer wide, 13,000-island Indonesian archipelago. And among those islands are Bali, popular for its beaches and party scene, and Komodo, home of the fearsome eponymous lizard. Also popular is the world's most populous island, Java, which is home to 150 million people, and to sites such as Borobudur and the world's biggest Buddhist temple, in Jakarta, the sprawling capital city. Prime Minister Modi discussed the war in Ukraine with the leader of Austria, an ally of Kyiv that has a policy of military neutrality, emphasizing the need for diplomacy a day after he met Russian President Putin in Moscow. Modi met Chancellor Karl Nehammer on what he said was the first visit to Austria by an Indian Prime Minister in 41 years. Russia is committed to finding the earliest possible solution to the issue of Indians being duped into joining its army and fighting in the Ukraine war. And seeking this discharge of Indians who joined Russia's army on false premises has been a key focus of Prime Minister Modi's talks with President Putin in Moscow. An Indian official accompanying Prime Minister Modi said that Russia has promised their early discharge. Russia said it is hoping for quick resolution of this issue relating to the call for return of Indians recruited into the Russian army as support staff, and asserted their recruitment was purely a commercial matter. The government in New Delhi, on the occasion of World Population Day, asked citizens to work collectively towards ensuring good family planning choices. Union Health Minister J.P. Nadda said the centre and state governments should work collectively to ensure that women can exercise their right to make family planning choices and are not burdened by unwanted pregnancies. India's population is 1/5 of the world, so we shoulder a huge responsibility on population control. 65% of India's population is adolescent. According to the UN, in 2011, the global population reached the 7 billion mark and stood at almost 7.9 in 2021, expected to grow to around 8.5 billion in the year 2030. Even as the latest suicide case of a father-son duo in Mumbai has shocked everyone in India, experts today said that suicide is the largest public health crisis facing people both young and old in India. India has the dubious distinction of having the highest number of suicides in the world. And in this report that was released in April, 1.71 lakh people died by suicide last year in India. And there are 4 common areas where the ups and downs in life can produce stress, and slowly stress is getting so severe that it gets converted into anxiety and depression. The doctors are noting that common stresses in life are related to work, finances, relationship issues, and health. And today, suicide is the largest public health crisis facing India. Mihir Shah, the 23-year-old who allegedly rammed the speeding BMW into a two-wheeler in Mumbai's Worli, killed a woman, dragging her body along for 1.5 kilometers before stopping, consumed 12 large pegs of whiskey hours earlier. Police sources said as they interrogated him for a second consecutive day, he was heavily drunk and on a joyride. He and his driver, who may have helped the young man dislodge and dump the body by the side of the road and hide evidence after the car stopped, were interrogated jointly by the cops. They were arrested after evading the police for over 72 hours, possibly with help from his family. The CBI arrested the alleged kingpin of the Bihar NEET UG case from Patna. After his arrest, the probe agency conducted searches at various locations connected to him in Patna and Kolkata, which led to the recovery of several incriminating documents. There is one state in India that is operating without a capital city, and that is Andhra Pradesh. This unique situation stems from a series of political and administrative decisions following the bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh in 2014, which created the new state of Telangana. Hyderabad was announced as the common capital of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh for a period of 10 years, but the political leadership chose to move away soon after bifurcation to operate out of a temporary setup at Velagapudi till their capital was built. And that deadline for sharing Hyderabad as capital also ended on the 2nd of June last month, and since then Andhra Pradesh has been left without that either. Situated in Guntur district at the heart of the state on the bank of the river Krishna, Amaravati was named Andhra Pradesh's capital after the state's bifurcation by Chandrababu Naidu, who was then chief minister. But in 2019, Mr. Naidu's Telugu Desam party lost the election, and YS Jagan Mohan Reddy's came to power. He stalled all the projects and reduced the budget of the new capital, leading to Singapore firm's exit from that project. The Delhi High Court has ordered the Delhi Development Authority to remove all encroachments and illegal construction on the Yamuna river bank, riverbed, and drains flowing into the river. A bench of acting Chief Justice Manmohan and another justice directed the vice chairman of the DDA to remove all encroachments and illegal construction while dealing with the police seeking directions to the DDA to demolish the unauthorized construction on the Yamuna River bank and to further prevent the same in the future. And Justice Amit Sharma of the Delhi High Court recused himself from hearing the NIA, the National Investigation Agency's appeal seeking the capital death penalty for Kashmiri terrorist Yasin Malik in a terror funding case today. The predecessor bench earlier has sought Yasin Malik's response to the NIA appeal, calling it a rarest of rare cases. The appeal was listed for hearing today before the division bench of Justice Pratibha Singh, and while the matter was taken up, Justice Amit Sharma recused himself from hearing that matter. The bench listed the matter for the 9th of August before different bench of the Delhi High Court. Indian captain Shubman Gill led his team to what he described as a crucial 23-run win in the third T20 international against Zimbabwe at the Harare Sports Club. Yesterday, India took a 2-1 lead in the 5-match series. And the Indian team will not travel to Pakistan for the ICC Champions Trophy 2025 and will ask the International Cricket Council to hold its matches in Sri Lanka or Dubai. The ICC Champions Trophy will be held next year from February to March in Pakistan. Since 2008 Asia Cup, India has not played any cricket tournaments in Pakistan due to tense relations between both nations. We do have Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev that has landed in Islamabad today on a 2-day official visit from today to tomorrow at the invitation of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. He alighted at the Noor Khan Air Base from his special aircraft received by Prime Minister Shehbaz along with his cabinet ministers, and a 21-gun salute boomed in the backdrop to herald the arrival of the dignitary, and 2 children clad in traditional dresses presented bouquets to him. During this visit, he will hold meetings with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and President Asif Ali Zardari, and the 2 sides will engage in wide-ranging discussions on areas of mutual interest to further strengthen bilateral cooperation, and several agreements are expected to be signed during this visit. A Saudi Airlines flight from Riyadh caught fire upon landing at Peshawar's Bacha Khan International Airport today, prompting a swift evacuation of all passengers and crew members to safety. Air traffic controllers witnessed smoke and sparks emanating from the left-hand side landing gear of the aircraft as it landed, and alerted the pilots, and at the same time they informed the airport fire and rescue services. A week after the death of a Japanese climber who fell into a crevice while descending the 7,000-meter Golden Peak, some local climbers and high-altitude porters from the Hopper Valley of Nagar district managed to retrieve and hand over his body to his colleagues. The 65-year-old climber Onishi Hiroshi fell into the crevice near Camp 2 after summit of Golden Peak last week. And the federal government's decision to allow the ISI to tap phone calls has been challenged in the Lahore High Court. A citizen has filed a writ petition through the advocate Nadeem Sarwar saying the federal government issued a notification permitting the ISI to tap phone calls. And as former Prime Minister Imran Khan faces a jail trial in the £190 million corruption case, former Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Chief Minister Parvez Khattak arrived at the Adiala jail to testify against him before an accountability court. Justice Alia Neelam today was sworn in as Lahore High Court's Chief Justice at the Governor's House, becoming the first woman to be elevated to the court's top position. Her oath-taking ceremony was held a day after President Zardari approved her appointment. Last week, the Judicial Commission of Pakistan, headed by Chief Justice of Pakistan Qazi Faiz Isa, greenlighted Justice Neelam's elevation after considering the nominations of 3 judges for the position of the Lahore High Court Chief Justice, including Acting Chief Justice Shujat Ali Khan and Justice Ali Bakr Najfi. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the world news for you, but I do have your financial news coming up in a separate segment in just a minute. Stay with us right here on Community Radio Networks. Let's get you all the financial news that you need to know today, and today is 7/11. U.S. stocks hit pause as Wall Street bracing for a crucial inflation reading that's going to put its roaring rally and rate cut hopes equally to the test. S&P 500 futures have slipped 0.1% after the broad index crossed 5,600 for the first time yesterday. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures dropped roughly 0.2%, while contracts on the tech-heavy Nasdaq 100 hovered below the flat line. Stocks gaining pace as Jeremy Powell suggesting conditions are right for the Federal Reserve to start making interest rate cuts. The S&P 500 yesterday achieved its 37th record close, marking another milestone for the index. And today, investors will digest one of the most important data points that will shape future Federal Reserve interest rate policies. We do have the Federal Reserve Chair Jeremy Powell saying that the era of super low interest rates that occurred between the 2008 financial crisis and the pandemic is likely over, and that the neutral interest rate for hitting 2% annual inflation had probably risen. The Biden administration is awarding nearly $2 billion in grants to help restart or expand electric vehicle manufacturing and assembly sites in 8 states, including the presidential battlegrounds of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. The Energy Department issuing grants totaling $1.7 billion to create or retain thousands of union jobs and support auto-based communities that have long driven the U.S. economy. And besides these 3 battleground states, grants also will go to EV facilities in Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, and Virginia. Investors are growing increasingly concerned that the U.S. technology mega gaps are spending too much on artificial intelligence. Companies that the strategists refer to as hyperscalers, including Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, and Alphabet, have utilized about $357 billion for capital expenditure as well as research and development in the past year. Costco Wholesale Corporation is boosting its membership fees for the first time since 2017, raising the charge for a basic membership to $65 a year from $60. The 8% price increase for U.S. and Canadian members will take effect on the 1st of September, and the price of the retailer's premium membership will rise to $130 from $120, and the move will affect about 52 million memberships. Costco shares rose nearly 3% in pre-market trading in New York today. The stock has gained 34% this year through yesterday's close, outpacing the advance of the S&P 500 index. PepsiCo missed expectations for second quarter revenue today as a series of price hikes and competition from private label brands slowed sales of its snacks and soda, mainly in the United States, its largest market. PepsiCo raised average prices on its products by 5% for the quarter that ended on the 15th of June, in line with the first quarter. However, overall organic volume slipped 3% in this reported quarter. Delta Airlines today reported record revenue during its June quarter, but discounted airfares pressured earnings, which fell below analyst expectations. BMW is recalling more than 390,000 vehicles equipped with airbag inflators that could explode and send metal fragments flying at passengers, possibly causing injury or death. And the recall affects certain 2006 to 11 3 Series sedans, 2006 to 12 3 Series sports wagons, and 2009 to 2011 3 Series sedan vehicles. Automaker says the original steering wheel may have been replaced with the Sport or M Sport steering wheel equipped with a defective Takata airbag module that can explode during deployment. HubSpot shares plunged 12% after a report said Alphabet isn't going forward with plans to buy that software company. Representatives for HubSpot and Google parent Alphabet did not immediately respond to this request for comments. And Microsoft has relinquished its seat on the board of OpenAI, saying its participation is no longer needed because the ChatGPT maker has improved its governance since being roiled by boardroom chaos last year. CNN is cutting about 100 jobs, nearly 3% of its workforce, as CEO Mark Thompson yesterday unveiled a new digital strategy for the company amid declining TV viewership and revenue. As it continues its mind-blowing trajectory, and with Tuesday's receipts now included, Disney Pixar's Inside Out 2 has become the highest-grossing Pixar movie of all time at the worldwide box office. It passed Pixar's Incredibles 2 to get to this latest milestone. alone. And the running global Qmon Inside Out 2 through Tuesday is $1,251.5 million, which makes this Kelsey Mann-directed juggernaut the number 4 animated film ever on a worldwide basis. As a reminder, Japan still yet has to open on the 1st of August. Live sporting events still pay, and that's the message derived from the NBA's new TV and media rights deal that will net the league approximately $76 billion in an 11-year deal, $6.9 billion per season from Disney, NBC, and Amazon. The NBA's new TV deal annually almost triples the current agreement, which began in 2015 and 16 and ends after the 24-25 season, and this new contract would kick in starting with 25-26 and end in 2036-37. Turner Sports is not part of this new agreement. Turner Sports does have an opportunity to match a portion of the deal, which might be Amazon's piece of the package. Disney will pay $2.6 billion, NBC $2.5 billion, and Amazon $1.8 billion annually in this deal that introduces a more prominent streaming service to the NBA's media partners. Bringing Amazon into the fold is not a surprise, given it has a deal to stream WNBA games, and the league has crafted a working relationship with the company. Kroger and Albertsons are in the middle of a corporate merger that could see almost 580 stores get sold off as part of a divestment before the two companies could complete things to the tune of more than $24.5 billion. A list of 26 stores here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that could be sold to C&S wholesale grocers as part of the deal. It means some Tom Thumbs, Albertsons, and Market Street locations could be under new ownership soon. Also, we do have, if this merger being approved, the stores on the list, along with their fuel centers and pharmacies, will be divested to CNC Wholesale Grocers, which operates the Piggly Wiggly supermarket chain, and some stores will retain their current names while others will be re-bannered after this sale. We're accustomed to getting snacks, drinks, and even vapes out of a vending machine. And now a Richardson-based America Rounds is adding another product, ammunition. The machine dispenses pistol rounds, shotgun shells, and rifle ammunition. Prefer to call them automated retail machines because it's really what they are. According to the CEO of American Rounds, he said the company's first machine was placed in Alabama last year and has expanded to 4 states, including Texas, and verifies users' identity and age using an ID scanner. Safest, most secure method of ammunition sales in the market, according to the CEO of American Rounds. And after choosing their product on a touch screen, customers use the scanner, pay, and receive their box of ammunition. An improv comedy club forced to leave its current spot in Fort Worth has found a new home. 4-day weekend moved to a location at 3rd and Houston about 6 months after its first show in 1997. After the pandemic, the club said Sundance Square refused to renew its lease and shifted it to month. And when Riata announced it would close its restaurant on the same block, founding member David Wilkes said he saw the writing on the wall. Riata's owner said Sundance Square also refused meetings about renewing his lease, so Mike McAuliffe shut down his restaurant at the end of June, and he plans to move to his original location in the Tower later this month. And this spring 4-day weekend said Sundance Square refused to renew their lease also. The White House yesterday released new rules strengthening tariffs on metals routed through Mexico. The rules build upon former President Trump's 2018 tariffs, which set a 25% tax on steel imports and a 10% tax on aluminum imports. Mexico won an exemption to the tariffs in 2019, and under the new rules, however, the companies shipping steel and aluminum from Mexico will have to prove their origin. Apple will open its tap-and-go mobile systems to rivals. The European Union antitrust regulators said that today, even as its chief said iPhone maker has yet to change its business practices to comply with landmark tech rules. The company faces 3 investigations under the Digital Markets Act, which requires big tech to ensure a level playing field for rivals and give users more choices. Germany's Frankfurt Airport, a European aviation hub, has seen an increase in passenger numbers and is optimistic about the full year. In June last month, they reported a good 5.6 million passengers, 1.4% more than a year earlier. This is in light of seasonal factors which affected the figures. The holiday period took place in June of last year, boosting figures then, but occurred in May this year. The International Energy Agency trimmed its forecast today as it said world oil demand growth continues to slow and consumption in China has dipped. The Paris-based body that advises industrial nations on energy policy said oil demand increased by just 710,000 barrels per day in the second quarter. And oil consumption in China, along the engine of global oil demand growth, contracted in both April as well as May, and Chinese demand in the second quarter marginally below the same period last year. Vietnam has maintained its #1 position in the Personal Finance Index for 2024, being recognized as the most affordable country for expatriates. The Southeast Asian country has held the top spot since the Expat Insider's 2022 edition. While Vietnam ranked first in the Personal Finance Index for this year, the Southeast Asian country placed 40th out of 53 countries surveyed in terms of quality of life, and 14th in the Working Abroad Index, and 29th in Expat Essentials, and 13th in Ease of Settling In. Meanwhile, other countries that made it into the top 10 of the Personal Finance Index for 24 include Indonesia at number 3, Philippines at number 5, India at number 6, Thailand at number 8, and China at number 10. Prime Minister Modi is expected to meet with top economists and sector experts, a senior government official mentioning that the purpose of this meeting is to collect insights and suggestions for the 24-25 budget. And the meeting will include participation from economists, industry experts, the Niti Aayog Vice Chairman Suman Berry, and will discuss fiscal strategies and provide their recommendations to the Prime Minister. Salaried taxpayers in India are keenly awaiting the upcoming budget 2024, hoping for significant reform to the national pension system, as Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman prepares to present the full budget for the ongoing financial year on the 23rd of this month, and anticipation is building around the potential announcements. Experts predicting that the budget will aim for a balanced approach with a touch of populism to benefit salaried individuals, farmers, women, and the youth. Key priorities are expected to include job creation and boosting the rural economy. And in addition, Nirmala Sitharaman is also expected to make key announcements related to infrastructure development, which is crucial for economic growth. Benchmark stock market indices ended flat today amid high volatility as profit booking offset early gains. The S&P BSE Sensex lost 27.43 points to close at 79,897, while the NSE Nifty 50 was down by 8.50 to end at 24,315. The Reserve Bank of India has expanded the scope of remittances to international financial services centers under the liberalized remittances scheme, allowing Indian residents to open foreign currency accounts in Gujarat International Finance Tech City. The Reserve Bank of India decided to allow authorized persons to facilitate remittances for availing financial services or financial products as per the International Financial Services Centers Authority Act. And shares of private lender Yes Bank climbed over 8% today in today's trade after ratings agencies improved its rating outlook. And this positive outlook comes with expectations of a gradual improvement in Yes Bank's depositor base and lending franchise, which is anticipated to enhance its core profitability over the next 12 to 18 months. Shares of Raymond Limited saw a sharp drop of 40% at the start of trading today, and this significant fall was because the stock turned ex-date for the demerger of its lifestyle business. The stock was trading at a value excluding the lifestyle business. The Tata Consultancy Services today reported a consolidated net profit of 12,040 crore rupees in the first quarter of financial year 25, marking a 9% increase over the 11,000 crore rupees in the corresponding period a year ago. Online trading platform Zerodha was the target of public anger after users faced technical issues that resulted in financial losses. Expressing their anguish on social social media platforms, some threatening to take legal action against Zeroda. Shares of PepsiCo bottler Varun Beverages have delivered an impressive 522% return over the last 3 years. The stock surged to 1,608 rupees in early deals this morning after closing 257 rupees on the 9th of July. The benchmark Sensex has gained only 52% in the same period compared to the multi-bagger FMCG stock. Several offices in the Bandra Kurla complex have asked their employees to work from home until the 15th of this month due to traffic diversions and restrictions in place for the Anant Ambani and Radhika Merchant wedding. Celebrities from Kim and Khloe Kardashian to boxer Mike Tyson expected to join some of the biggest names in global business at this lavish family wedding thrown by Asia's richest person, set to take place tomorrow in India after months of celebrations. The wedding of Anant Ambani, the youngest son of Reliance Industries Limited chairman Mukesh Ambani, will be attended by luminaries from HSBC Holdings and their chairman Mark Tucker and Samsung Electronics Company Limited chairman Jay Lee, to political heavyweights like former UK leaders Boris Johnson and Tony Blair. Chief executives including Saudi Aramco's Amin Nasser and the counterpart Murray Auchincloss are on that list. So are Emma Walmsley of drug giant GSK, Jim Tasselet of Lockheed Martin, and even FIFA president Gianni Infantino. While the CEOs of firms including Ericsson and HP are attending, some of the flashier names in tech, including Meta Platforming's Mark Zuckerberg, who was present for the pre-wedding festivities also. And Anant Ambani and his fiancée Radhika Merchant will become man and wife at the Geo World Center in central Mumbai, with the event set to be attended by about 1,200 guests who also include Indian lawmakers and government ministers. Mukesh Ambani's wife Neeta Ambani has curated hundreds of local dishes. And the gathering of the rich and famous comes as the Ambani family is engaged in a succession exercise and massive wealth transfer to its heirs. The 29-year-old groom will be in charge of Reliance's fledgling green energy business as the conglomerate diversifies beyond its fossil fuel roots. And the only daughter, Isha Ambani, oversees the retail businesses, while Akash Ambani, the eldest son, is helming the group's digital ventures. Still, the lavish festivities also reportedly annoying to some local residents and office workers. City authorities have imposed these traffic restrictions from tomorrow until the 15th around the wedding venue, which happens to be in the heart of Mumbai's financial district. The curbs and the movement around the Bandra Kurla complex, home to India's market regulator, its biggest stock exchange, and a slew of foreign banks, has irked some of the locals. The wedding is taking place after 134 days of pre-celebrations that have featured visits to the family's personal zoo, a luxury cruise in Europe, a mass wedding for underprivileged couples, and a musical event with Justin Bieber. The stretch officially kicked off in early March, attended by high-profile guests including Zuckerberg, Microsoft Corporation's co-founder Bill Gates, BlackRock Inc. co-founder Larry Fink, Alphabet Inc. CEO Sundar Pichai, and Saudi Aramco's chairman Yasir Al-Rumayyan. All right, Pakistan's merchandise exports to the U.S. have fallen 10.65% in the first 11 months of the outgoing 23-24 financial year. And the Overseas Investors Chamber of Commerce and Industry has raised serious concerns over the country's deteriorating security environment, particularly in Karachi, compared to other cities where the security situation has improved. The stock market in Karachi snapped its record-setting streak due to emerging economic concerns as the International Monetary Fund attached a new condition for reaching a staff-level agreement for a new loan. And the government has borrowed 3.2 trillion rupees from scheduled banks from the 15th of May till the 28th of June of the fiscal year 23-24, despite a 30% growth in revenue generation. The government in Islamabad notified 15% increase in pensions and 20 to 25% increase in salaries of public servants with effect from the 1st of July. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif assured the National Assembly that the government has not decided to export wheat from the country, even as the state-owned Enterprises Bill 2024 was rushed through the legislator. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the financial news that you need to know for today. And today is 7-11, and I'll have the final segment of our program coming up for you next. Stay with us right here on Community Radio Networks. This is the final segment of our program today. And today, ladies and gentlemen, is the 11th of July. After a few lucky ones saw a cooling shower yesterday, it'll be the case again today, but only with about 10% coverage. Afternoon highs creeping close to 100 degrees, and an air quality alert is in place and will likely continue through the weekend. The upper level ridge of high pressure that's been baking the western United States will creep a little bit closer to North Texas tomorrow. However, another weak disturbance will rise down the lee side of the Rockies and bring another chance for a late-day shower storm. The upper-level feature will drift into West Texas on Sunday and Monday, also taking our rain chances with it. Afternoon highs will be in the upper 90s through the period, and some areas may hit 100 degrees. We are, of course, in the middle of the summer season. Let's tell you about some of the other events that are happening here in town, and to bring these to you and to bring all that we get on community radio networks, we have huge thanks going out to Discount Power, to Houston EB5, the Ahluwalia Law Offices, the Wyndham Hotel in Irving, Digital X-Force, and Kinzer Law, as well as Maikolachi, Ruchi Palace by Maikolachi, Sri Vimal, Vimal's Venue, Mystic Mandala, as well as Flash Brush Productions. To keep you all busy, of course, we still have the Texas tournament going on, and that is the Major League, Cricket Major League still happening. And the match tomorrow is in Morrisville, and then this weekend they will be back in Dallas, right there at the Grand Prairie Stadium. We are excited to inform you of the upcoming J.K. Yoga Leadership Workshop for Youth at the Radhakrishna Temple, and that is happening tomorrow and Saturday, and inviting all high schoolers and college students to attend this very special program designed to empower young people to take on leadership roles in their schools, their communities, and workplaces. J.K. Yoga Youth Leadership Workshop, a comprehensive program tailored for young individuals eager to develop their leadership potential, and it's crafted to engage and challenge students through a series of dynamic knowledge sessions and interactive activities. They'll dive into experiences that enhance critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration skills. A two-day workshop including inspiring lectures on business from industry leaders and successful entrepreneurs, and the participants will get to learn from these masters and benefit from their decades of experience. Satish Gupta, the president and CEO of SB International, serving as trustee of Southwest Medical Foundation in Dallas, will be one of the speakers, along with Dayakar Puskur, the GP at Naya Venture, founder and MD of Dallas Venture Capital, and a serial entrepreneur and investor. Also, Dr. Gopal Gupta, professor and head of Department of Computer Science at University of Texas at Dallas. Professor Dinesh Bhatia, also professor at the School of Engineering and Computer Science at UTD. Dr. Debjani Biswas, best-selling author, CEO of Co-Achieve, TEDx speaker, Gaurav Shekhar, Program Director of Graduate Business Analytics Program and Assistant Professor of Instruction in Information Systems. Siddharth Bhatt, the co-founder and CEO of Zynerva Technologies, as well as Swami Mukundananda, of course, the founder of JK Yoga, an IIT and an IIM alumnus, best-selling author, a global spiritual leader, Vedic scholar, and a Bhakti saint. And the theme of this workshop is empowering others, the heart of servant leadership. Students will have the opportunity to develop various leadership competencies through group activities that cover topics such as communication, goal setting, creating a business plan, bringing strategic change, mentoring teams, problem solving, and plenty more. Two-day workshop for youth, 8:30 to 5:30 tomorrow, as well as on Saturday at the Radhakrishna Temple in Allen. SABA, the South Asian Business Alliance, are having their monthly event this Saturday from 11 to 1 at the First United Bank in McKinney on Craig Ranch on Custer Road. And the topic is AI and startups, delving into the dynamic world of information technology and artificial intelligence, a fantastic opportunity to connect, learn, and grow with like-minded professionals in the South Asian business community. You can expand your network, meet and connect with influential business leaders and professionals, and gain insights and learn from industry pioneers' experiences and expertise as you explore opportunities and discover new business opportunities and collaborations. Rohit Sharma's Cricket Academy is going to be launched this Sunday. It's going to be a fancy schmancy meet and greet, and we invite you all to be there. For those of you that need more information, please call Shalu. Her number is 201-245-6299, 201-245-6299. It is Crick Kingdom in partnership with DFW Indoor Sports, bringing you Cricket Academy by Rohit Sharma and the hitman himself, going to be in Dallas this Sunday. The India Association of North Texas proudly presents the Carom Grandmasters Tournament, 19th, 20th, and 21st of this month. It's going to be at the Holiday Inn on Central Expressway in Richardson. There's going to be singles and doubles, a grand 3-day event with a Bollywood banquet night and global participation, along with many cash prizes and a live broadcast. CNY, they see the entertainment factory bringing Atif Aslam into Texas, and the only concert is going to be in Austin on Sunday, the 21st, at the Long Center in Austin. Sri Shirdi Sai Baba Temple of DFW on Plano Parkway in Plano, inviting you all to their Guru Purnima celebrations, celebrated all over the world to express gratitude and reverence to one's teachers, gurus, and spiritual guides for the knowledge that they impart on us. And on this auspicious day, the temple will be honoring and expressing gratitude and seeking the blessings from Sadguru Shirdi Sai Baba. It is the Arati that starts at 7 in the morning on Sunday the 21st, and the final Aarti will be at 9:30 at night. So please be part of those celebrations of Guru Purnima at the Sri Shirdi Sai Baba Temple on Plano Parkway in Plano. ShirdiSaiDallas.org is their website. I'll also give you a telephone number, 469-467-3388. Wishwin Spellathon has been announced, and the preliminaries for the Junior Spellathon are going to be on the 26th and 27th of this month, and the Senior Spellathon preliminaries on the 28th and the 29th. Shahnaz Gill will be in Dallas on the 27th at the Grandian Event Center on Parkwood Boulevard in Frisco, and you can get more information there at 24/7 Entertainment. We have Al Noor International presenting their 5th Cruise Mushaira on the 27th of this month, a global mushaira on the waves of the Frisco Lake. The 2024 North Texas Job Fair, hosted by U.S. Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne in partnership with the U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce, is happening on the 8th of August at the Texas Rangers Stadium. And we also have Madhuri Dixit coming into Dallas on the 9th of August. 360shows.com for more information on that. A program called Yade, featuring the songs of Kishore Kumar, Lata Mangeshkar, and Mohammad Rafi on Saturday, the 10th of August at 8 o'clock at the Grand Center in Plano. The Pakistan Society of North Texas presenting Ayad Mela with Farhan Sayyid and Sabah Qamar, and it is happening on Sunday, the 18th of August from noon to 11 p.m. at the Frisco Flyers Event Center. It is the India Association of North Texas bringing you the 47th Anand Bazaar, celebrating 77 years of India's independence at the Frisco Rough Riders Stadium. This is the biggest event of the community that happens here in our area, and we invite you all to be a part of it by becoming sponsors or getting a booth, and you can get more information on the India Association's website, which is iant.org. Join the Brahma Kumaris of Dallas in welcoming Sister Shivani, a globally renowned spiritual teacher and motivational speaker, as she guides us with ancient wisdom to bring hope and clarity in times of confusion and chaos. This is happening on Sunday, the 8th of September from 2 to 4 in the afternoon at the Credit Union of Texas in Allen. Season 2 of the Broadway-style Mughal-e-Azam, that musical, is happening here again in the United States. It's going to be in Dallas on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of September at the Dallas Music Hall. And Flash Brush Productions brings you a bridal expo on the 14th of September, and this is at the Frisco Hall. For those of you who would like to get a booth there or would like to sponsor this event, please call Priya. Her number is 972-963-0954. Texas Giving Day is happening on the 19th of September, and please mark the 13th of October for the Dallas Festival of Lights, the Grand Diwali Mela at the South Fork Ranch, brought to you by Mystic Mandala. And for more information, you can call Vijay at 972-750-1419. It is the 11th of July today, and I'm going to get you some stories from the annals of history that happened on today's date. Way back in 1804, in one of the most famous duels in American history, Vice President Aaron Burr fatally shoots his longtime political antagonist, Alexander Hamilton. Hamilton, a leading Federalist and chief architect of America's political economy, died the following Day. Born on the Caribbean island of Nevis, he came to the American colonies in 1773 as a poor immigrant. That day he was slain by Aaron Burr in a duel on the 11th of July in the year 1804. The Niagara movement members began meeting on the Canadian side of the Niagara Falls. This all-African-American group of scholars, lawyers, and businessmen came together for 3 days to create what would soon become a powerful post-slavery black rights organization. Although it only lasted 5 years, the Niagara movement was an influential precursor to the mid-20th century civil rights movement. The members of the Niagara movement meet for the first time on today's date, the 11th of July, in the year 1905. On the 11th of July in 1914, in his major league debut, George Herman Babe Ruth pitches 7 strong innings to lead the Boston Red Sox over the Cleveland Indians, now known as the Cleveland Guardians, 4-3. And after getting, it was to the Roots contract that was sold to the New York Yankees before the 1920 season by Red Sox owner Harry Frazee, so that he could finance the musical No No Nanette. And Babe Ruth switched to the outfield with the Yankees and hit more home runs than the entire Red Sox team in 10 of the next 12 seasons. On the 11th of July 1944, Count Klaus van Stauffenberg, a German army officer, transports a bomb to Adolf Hitler's headquarters in Bavaria with the intention of assassinating the Führer. Hitler is paid a visit by his would-be assassin on the 11th of July in 1944. After recovering from his injuries and determined to see Hitler removed from power by any means, he traveled there and received at the hands of a fellow army officer a bomb with a silent fuse that was small enough to be hidden in a briefcase. He was summoned there to report to Hitler's headquarters on the current military situation. His plan was to use the bomb, but he held back because Hermann Göring and Heinrich Himmler, also considered crucial targets, were not present as expected. Hitler was called away to his headquarters in East Prussia, and Stauffenberg was asked to follow him there. On the 16th of July, a meeting took place between Stauffenberg and Colonel Caesar von Hoffaker, another conspirator in the Berlin suburb of Wannsee, and they informed that the German defenses had collapsed at Normandy and the tide had turned against them in the west, and the assassination attempt was postponed, where it was finally carried out without success. Hitler was paid this visit by his would-be assassin on today's date in the year 1944. And fulfilling agreements reached at various wartime conferences, the Soviet Union promises to hand power over to British and US forces in sectors of Allied-controlled Berlin on today's date in 1945. Although the division of Berlin and of Germany as a whole into zones of occupation was seen as a temporary post-war expedient, the dividing lines quickly became permanent, and the divided city of Berlin became a symbol of Cold War tensions. On the 11th of July 1960, the 34-year-old novelist Nell Harper Lee publishes her first novel, To Kill a Mockingbird. Set in Macomb, a small Alabama town, much like Lee's native Monroeville, To Kill a Mockingbird is populated with indelible characters, including the book's tomboy narrator, Jean-Louis Finch, known as Scout, the mysterious recluse Boo Radley in Scout's father, an upstanding lawyer who defends a black man accused of raping a white woman, and now a staple of junior high and high school classrooms and the subject of numerous censorship efforts. It offers a vivid depiction of life in the Jim Crow South during the Great Depression. It was the 34-year novelist who published her first novel, To Kill a Mockingbird. She died at the age of 89. And on the 11th of July, 1978, a truck carrying liquid gas crashes into a campsite crowded with vacationers in San Carlos de la Rapita in Spain. The resulting explosion killed more than 200 people Many others suffered severe burns. On a hot day on the Mediterranean coast of Spain, this 38-ton truck carrying propylene gas used in the manufacture of alcohol traveling on a small winding road 120 miles south of Barcelona. And it may have been on this coastal road instead of the nearby turnpike in order to avoid paying a toll. For unknown reasons, the truck crashed into the cement wall. And down a hill from the cement wall, 800 people, mostly families on vacation from Germany and France, were camped out near the beach in tents and makeshift bungalows. And the truck carrying this pressurized liquid gas plunged down the hill and exploded in a massive fireball, and flames shot up 100 feet into the air, killing many people instantly. The resulting crater was 20 yards in diameter, and the huge fire and explosion caused the campers' portable gas units and cars also to blow up. Few of the survivors were wearing any protective clothing other than a bathing suit, and many of them suffered horrible burns. The timing of the disaster also contributed to the high casualty toll. After lunch, many people had not yet returned to the nearby beach. In all, 215 people lost their lives. So many German citizens were involved that German officials arranged for an airlift of doctors and equipment from Stuttgart to assist in those relief efforts of this gas-fired incineration on this crowd campsite that killed hundreds on today's date in 1978. And on today's date in 1979, parts of Skylab, America's first space station, come crashing down on Australia and into the Indian Ocean 5 years after the last manned Skylab mission ended. No one was injured. Launched in 1973, Skylab was the world's first successful space station. The first manned Skylab mission came 2 years after the Soviet Union launched Salyut 1, the world's first space station, into orbit around the Earth. However, unlike the ill-fated Salyut, which was plagued with problems, the American space station was a great success, safely housing 3 separate 3-man crews for extended periods of time. And it was 5 years after the last Skylab mission that the space station's orbit began to deteriorate, earlier than was anticipated because of unexpectedly high sunspot activity. And on today's date, the 11th of July, 1979, Skylab made a spectacular return to Earth, breaking up in the atmosphere and showering burning debris over the Indian Ocean and Australia. 2 decades after the fall of Saigon, President Bill Clinton establishes full diplomatic relations with Vietnam on today's date in 1995, citing Vietnamese cooperation in accounting for the 2,238 Americans still listed as missing in the Vietnam War. Normalization with America's old enemy began in early 1994 when President Clinton announced the lifting of the 19-year-old trade embargo against Vietnam. And despite the lifting of that embargo, high tariffs remained on Vietnamese exports, pending the country's qualification as a most favored nation, a U.S. trade status designation that Vietnam might earn after broadening its program of free market reforms. And in 1995, on today's date, President Clinton established diplomatic relations. In making the decision, he was advised by Republican Senator John McCain of Arizona, an ex-Navy pilot who has spent 5 years as a prisoner of war in Hanoi during the Vietnam War. Brushing aside criticism of his decision by some Republicans, it was John McCain who asserted it was time for America to normalize relations with Vietnam. And it was Bill Clinton who terminated the combat zone designation for Vietnam and nominated Florida Representative Douglas Pete Peterson to become the first ambassador to Vietnam since Graham Martin was airlifted out of the country by helicopter in 1975. Peterson himself had served as a U.S. Air Force captain during the Vietnam War and was held as a prisoner of war for 6.5 years after his bomber was shot down near Hanoi in 1966. Confirmed by Congress, Ambassador Peterson presented his credentials to communist authorities in Hanoi, the Vietnamese capital, in 1997. And in November of the year 2000, he greeted Clinton in Hanoi in the first presidential visit to Vietnam since Richard Nixon's 1969 trip to South Vietnam during the Vietnam War. And it was U.S. establishing diplomatic relations with Vietnam on today's date in the year 1995. Ladies and gentlemen, those were some stories from the annals of history that happened on 7/11. Don't forget to get your free Slurpees at 7-Eleven today. And with that, I'll end our show for today right here on Community Radio Networks. And I do hope that you found it very informative and it made you ready